As I am, thank you. As I am also choral conductor, I know how important is the feeling that all participants in choral festival and competitions are treated equally and fairly. So there are just some very important, but sometimes also very small things that, like if you have competition and you have jury, that you have at least 5 jury members there, and only 2 of them are from participating country, and organizers or artistic director is not part of jury himself or herself, and participation criteria are openly announced at homepage. And if you have to pay for participation or accommodation, it is clear from very beginning how much you have to pay and so on. It is the conditions festivals must respond to, belong to CFN, and for me it is also something important. We have 5 board members until now in Choral Festival Network from different festivals all over the world. And if you ever need ideas or advice or questions about any festivals, you are very welcome to turn to every one of the board members of CFN, and all the contacts are at our homepage. Also, the quality guidelines are at our homepage of CFN, so it is easy to see what are the conditions the festivals have to respond to be the members of CFN. So we want to offer platform for choirs and conductors to see different festivals. They are in chronological order. You can search dates or countries. And for our member festivals, it is really a platform to see each other's participants, winners, jury members, to share experiences about organizational issues and so on and so on. And of course, we also promote each other and visit each other's festivals. I just put here the screenshot of CFN homepage. As you see, it is quite easy. You can see events of this year and next year and 2027. You can also see member festivals list, news, and so on and so on. And here, just as an example, I put the festivals of 2025. And as you see, it's only 14 festivals here, and it is because not all our member festivals have announced their dates for 2025 yet. If the festival is in the end of the year, they can announce the dates later. So you can see every festival in members list. And actually, it is something we hope. We hope that Choral Festival Network logo is an international seal of approval for choir festivals. And we are very happy to get all feedback of any CFN festival, all questions, all suggestions, and so on. And I also present a list of our current member festivals here. As you see, we really have festivals from Europe, Asia, and America. And we are very happy that so many festivals have wished to join us. So if you are ever going to any of those festivals, you just see and can share your experiences with us. And I am very happy that also the festivals connected with IFCM or European Choral Association are there as our members. we really miss Arctica and Antarctica now, but it would be also very complicated to organize choral festival there. Maybe something for penguins. Thank you very much for your interest and all questions you might have about Choral Festival Network are welcome. Before we are going to presentations of our guests, I just ask, are there any questions now about CFN? No problem. You can also ask them later if you wish. And so now I am very happy to invite our first presenter, Betsy Cook Weber from US, to talk about her experiences with choral festivals and competitions. Floor is yours, Betsy.
Thank you. Uh-oh. Can you all see my PowerPoint? Great.
Yes.
It's so nice to see you all this morning. It is 7 a.m. here in Houston, and so my voice is kind of froggy because I'm still a little bit sleepy. And I see so many faces of people I've met at international choral competitions and festivals. So it's delightful to see you all again. I just recently retired from the University of Houston, and I now work with a professional choir, the Houston Chamber Choir. So I probably will not be participating in competitions in the future with these folks, but I am a huge, huge fan. How do I choose the event in which I want to participate? I go to CFN. Thank you so much, Kaya, for your work on that. And I pore over the websites. I look for lists of the choirs that have participated in the past. So, if Jonathan or Helene's choirs have participated in the festival, I know it's going to be a really good one. I look to see who has served on the jury in the past. For us at the University of Houston, the run-out concerts, if they offer opportunities to perform in addition to the competition, that's very appealing to me. And then I start checking costs. The festivals are normally extremely reasonably cost, but for us, of course, airfare was always the big expense. And then I call my friends or email my friends to say, how was that festival, and get their recommendations. I compare costs. And then the notification date was always important for me. If a festival doesn't let you know if you're accepted or not, and some of the festivals are extremely selective and only have a handful of choirs. If it was after January 1st, it was too late for me to work that into our schedule. So that was always important information. The question about repertoire, I don't have any insider information, but for me, I would always look for things I wanted to listen to for a long time. And I wanted music that I thought an audience would like to listen to. There's a lot of academic music that's very interesting intellectually, but I tried to pick things that were appealing. Make certain you know what the repertoire rules are. Some of them are pretty complex. And I messed this up at the Bela Bartok, and my students had to learn a piece before the Grand Prix, the morning of the Grand Prix. It turned out very well for us, but I'll never make that mistake again. I think, and I've served as a jury member also, I think generally juries prefer more difficult repertoire, but only if the choir sings it really well. So the bottom line is, does the choir sing it well? I also personally avoid very famous pieces that are staples in the repertoire because I think the jury member has their own vision of how that piece should sound, and if my interpretation is different, it might not turn out so well. Again, I just want to tell you, if you disagree, that you're probably right. Continuing along repertoire, I believe in programming a variety of stylistic periods, and not all competitions require that. But I want to do some early music and some late music and some 19th century music. I pay careful attention to finding a great closer. I think that last thing everyone hears is important. And I just will point out that selecting repertoire takes a ton of time. I saw an interview with Kent Hatteberg, who's one of the U.S.'s most wonderful choral directors, and he said, I spend more time selecting repertoire than we spend rehearsing it. So that gives you an idea. And that's kind of where I am too. How far in advance do I need to plan? So I would suggest you start gauging interest and support from your administrators, board, and singers about 18 months ahead and see if they're going to be supportive of this project. And then I begin identifying possible competitions over the summer, and I go straight to Choral Festival Network to start. I start putting together our application packages. If you haven't done this before, they're substantial. You need recordings, bios of the choir, bio for yourself, photos. It takes some time to do a nice job. And then if there are early bird deadlines, it will be cheaper for you. And sometimes you can get notified if you're accepted or not a little bit earlier. And so I try to meet those. Budget. This is the big question. So at the University of Houston, I lobbied very hard to have the university pay most of the expenses for the singers. And there are a handful of choirs in the U.S. where we are lucky enough to have that. And if you work for a large institution in the U.S., I can't speak outside the U.S., and they're supporting sports teams who travel every week, marching bands who travel to athletic events, and opera programs. And if you find out, and it's easy to find out how much money a school is spending on those initiatives, then for me, it was very easy to say, if you can spend this much money, if you can spend $100,000 on one opera production, then you can spend about half of that to send the choir to an international choral competition. And that argument worked for me very well and has continued to work for me. I understand that not everybody can make that pitch, but I do think choir directors, especially in the U.S., would benefit from becoming more aggressive in terms of saying, this is fair to send our choir to an international festival or competition. Then, of course, you can have singers pay. At the University of Houston, because our singers come from very modest backgrounds, I did not want it to be as a project where only those who could afford to participate could go. And you can do fundraising, which we certainly did at the University of Houston. Organizationally, I deal all of that myself because it's cheaper. If I used a travel agent, it was going to be more expensive. And it's not that hard. Some of the competitions provide your lodging and your meals, which is great. But the airfare I would have to cover. And so I dealt with that. I had my students organize everything else. And we did this all through a private Facebook group that would post all the information. It worked very well for us. I have my email at the end of this slideshow, and so feel free to reach out for more details about how we handled that stuff. Why did I do it? I had one goal. I wanted the singers to get better. I wanted them to work harder. I wanted them to work more independently. I wanted them to become better musicians. That was my only goal. Here in the States, we have a saying, show me the incentive and I will show you the result. And so the incentive of getting to do these projects was huge for the singers, and they would work very hard. We did this in addition and outside of our normal curriculum. The byproducts were that the choir got better and the singers got better, and our program gained recognition nationally, locally, and internationally. It was easier to recruit singers to our school, and then our singers got better opportunities as a result. It has nothing to do with whether you win the competition or not. All of these byproducts will accrue to your program if you participate. If you go just because you want to win, I think that you might consider adjusting your mentality about that. At the University of Houston, I took only 32 singers. We had 155 in the program. I took 32. They had auditioned, and I brought in outside judges to help me pick. The school paid the expenses, and the singers had to learn all the music on their own. I did not teach one pitch, not a single note. It was outside of our normal curriculum. And they had to memorize the music independently. And this photo, the young man in the center was our guide at Mark Doberdorf, Stefan, and he came to Houston and visited us and stayed with all the kids and with my husband and me. You make such great friendships on these festivals. All of rehearsals were outside of normal class time. We did recording assignments that were due every week, and the kids send the recordings to each other and evaluate them and just CC me. I do not. They have to behave as though they are professional singers to participate in these. We did 6 rehearsals on the weekends of spring break. We'd give one preview concert that was not memorized. Then we do 6 rehearsals during dead days or final exams, and give another preview. Half of the concert would be memorized. And then we would do 6 rehearsals before we leave, followed by a send-off concert, and everything was memorized. And that was the goal. It's a fairly professional schedule. And the students, I mean, it became such a part of our tradition. They knew how to manage that. They became very disciplined, and they're fantastic musicians as a result. So this was an example of recording assignments. I can talk to you about it if you want to, but I'd post these on Facebook and say, this is your assignment. And all I did was keep track of who was staying on top of the assignments. Then for memorization, we would have dates. That meant the students had to get together on their own to prove that they were memorized. And so the dates had to be at least 2 singers. They had to invite everybody to the date. This is an example of a date. Then they would take a picture of who participated in the date, and they'd tell me how they did in terms of memorization. They would have so much fun doing this. So sometimes it'd be 2 singers, sometimes it'd be 16. Those are kids who got together on a memorization date. So in closing, I say just do it. Please, please, please. These are so awesome for your singers in every way. That's my email. I would be happy to give you more details about how we managed all this. But in the spirit of making friends and improving our singers as musicians, I just encourage you to go for it. Thank you.
Dear Betsy, thank you very much. It was very inspiring.
Good.
Do we have any questions to Betsy?
Maria?
Oh, Betsy, thank you very much. Wonderful ideas. And I am very curious to know about, the strategic organization of the planning, of the learning of the repertoire. Did you do that yourself, or did you have sort of an agreement with your singers? How did you plan that?
Right. I mean, that's a contract they all sign, that they understand that they have to stay on top of their music assignments. That's a requirement of participation. And then as they turned in the assignments, I'm watching very carefully, and it's like taking roll. So they would CC me on their recording assignments. And if an evaluation came back and so the students are evaluating each other, my whole teaching philosophy is having students own the process. So if an evaluation came back and it was pretty negative, I would go listen, and I'd go back to that student and say, would you mind resubmitting that recording and seeing if you could do a little bit better? So yes, it's part of our organization over the years. We did 9 competitions over the course of about 20 years. And that was just the tradition of getting to do this. It's a lot of work, but the work is not useful unless you feel as though educationally and musically your singers are improving and growing. And so I would be happy to send anybody who asks voluminous details about how we organized this. But I think the students had fun once they realized it is going to be work and you are going to have to do this on your own. Dr. Weber is not going to teach you this music because when you get out in the professional world, no conductor is going to teach you that's music. It worked very well for us.
Congratulations. I will write to you. I need some of your advice.
Okay. I would love to share that.
Thank you.
We have two more questions, and Leon Starker was the first
Hi,
one.
Leon. Leon is a friend from South Africa. I mean, this is such an example of these wonderful people you meet.
Betsy, I'm not a friend. I'm a huge admirer of you. I mean, we met Betsy in Mark Doberdorf. She was the adjudicator, and we were just overwhelmed with the class that she gave to the choir afterwards. It was absolutely wonderful. We still talk about it, and we still try to do what you told us. But I have a question about your 32 students. Have you ever had an instance where one or two didn't stay on top and you said, okay, I'm sorry, your journey has ended. I'm replacing you with someone else who's prepared to do the work?
I always had the instance where a student fell behind in their assignments, and I never had to pull them out of the choir. I never did that. I was prepared to do that if I needed to, but I never did. And a big part of that is the camaraderie of the students. And when I selected them, you know, I knew which students were probably disciplined enough to stay on top of the preparation. But I would have, and I think the students strongly believed that I would have them withdraw, but I didn't. Never. That would have been terrible.
Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you very much. Jojo, your question?
Yes, my question is, what does that recording, or how does that recording go? Do they do their voices without any background, or is there a harmonic background, or what can you hear in that?
Almost always they were unaccompanied. So the assignment would be, please sing measures, the hardest measures 25 through 66, unaccompanied. You know, they'd record into their iPhone, send it to the person who is after you on this list of singers by Sunday at 5. By Wednesday at 5, send an evaluation back to the singer, CC Dr. Weber on everything. It's fantastic. And if they needed help, they would go to their section leaders. There were a lot of examples of the older students helping the younger. And so it just goes back and forth. And every Sunday they had a recording assignment due, and every Wednesday they had an evaluation due.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you so much. Big help.
Thank you very much. Do we have any more questions to Betsy? Not now. Then thank you very much. It's also possible to ask more questions afterwards. And now we go on with the presentation of Helene Stureborg from Sweden. Helene, floor is yours.
Yeah. Hello. Thank you. And so nice to see you all. And thank you for having me here. I'm Helene Stureborg from Sweden, Stockholm. And I have been working for many years at Stockholm's Musikgymnasium, which is a choir school for students in upper secondary high school, you can say, ages 16 through 19 approximately. And there they are students in a normal social science or natural science program with enhanced choral singing for maybe 3 or 4 hours per week, depending on what year they are studying. And then we have choir singing. And then we have a chamber choir. Unfortunately, I have left that school. So since 2 years, I'm not working there any longer. Now I'm a artistic planning manager for the Radio Choir of Sweden. So I miss my students, but I still have a youth chamber choir because I started up a new choir 1.5 years ago in Storkyrkan in the Cathedral of Stockholm, where I have very, very good colleagues, like, for instance, Gary Graydon, who you maybe know, all of you. And then I had also my private choir, my own chamber choir outside school later on, but I finished with that also last year. So either I have had young students in school, or I have had amateur singers doing this on their spare time with rehearsals once a week. And I can really say I agree on everything you say, Betsy. And my first question to this is, why do we do this? Why do I go on festivals and especially to competitions? Well, the outcome is so good. I mean, the choir raises the level so much in the process because something kicks in that they go for the winning. But for me, the winning is always they are improving so much in how they see themselves singing and performing. And I just wish, couldn't we have the same focus to concerts, to normal concerts? But it obviously is not the same thing. So every now and then we do a competition. So the first thing is I never initiate going away myself. I always wait for the choral singers to, maybe comes. Also for the first thing I do, I always ask the singers, where do you want to go in form of competition, festival, or just a tour? And I try to explain for the singers the differences between them. And mostly they want to go to competition, but sometimes to a festival to meet others, or just a tour because they want to go to a special country or a special city. The problem is that we have to adjust to the year of the school or when we can go with our singers. So that's almost always the ground for where we go. Is it in a period when we can go somewhere? And then we have maybe 2 or 3 options at the most. And if we go to a tour, all work is on me because I have to have the connections. I have to try to sew together where to go, how to go, where to sing and to perform, and who to meet. So it's kind of a lot of work to do a tour when you're leaving your country, unless you have an invitation. And that's not always the case. And how do we finance it? We can't ask for fundings or anything. We don't have that in Sweden. It's quite a different culture in how to manage these things. And also things should not cost. So we always have to do gigs with the choir for a long time, during a year or something, to build up our account so we can say, okay, we have this much money. How much can we put in personally to this? And that's not much. It could be maybe 100, 150 euros or dollars, not more than that. So that also depends on where we can go. And if we do a tour, sometimes you have to also pay for the venues where you go. You can have to pay for the church where you sing. You cannot pay for a tour, for instance. So I try to avoid tours as much as I can, unless we have invites, of course. Festival, that's another thing. We have been to the festival, the Youth Choir Festival in Basel, for instance. It's a beautiful festival. And they pay for a lot of concerts and activities. And that's also what you want for the choir. You want activities beside the choir singing, and you want them to meet with other choirs or musicians. And that festival is really, really good for that. And lastly, then, to go to competitions, what we have done the most. It's extremely dangerous in some cases when some people in the choir, if they are not really grounded in why we are doing this, they go too much for a competition to win. Then you can get different groups in the choir that starts to really fight with each other on how much effort you should really put in this. So this differs a lot from the situation where you are, Betsy. So I have to be the moderator all the time and remind them that we are doing the best we can for our sake, and we should be proud afterwards for the accomplishments we have done, but not more than that. If we win, that's a bonus. If we get a prize, that's a bonus. For instance, when I go with the youth choir, which is mostly the case, maybe we decide in April, May, or June before the summer that we want to go somewhere next year. So probably we have earned a lot of money during singing, having concerts where we got paid and so. And we can say that, okay, we can go. For instance, this time we went to Tolosa, and then we had an invitation also for Tolosa. And that's a good competition because everything is paid, but not the travel costs for flight fare and airway fare and buses. But we can stay and we can have their dinners and so, and that's a lot of help. About repertoire, I agree so much. It takes a lot of time to choose repertoire, but that's so fun. I think that's so fun. That's most joy in my work, really, to find the repertoire. And it's so important to keep the rules of the repertoire in mind all the time. What epochs should be presented and represented, and the time limit, and have enough space to the real time limits, so you can be free and not feel that I have to stress through this piece because we need to fit it into 15 minutes or whatever it is. And when I think of the repertoire and when I try to put it together, I think mostly of the first piece. I want the first piece to be something where the choir can really sing and feel comfortable, and where they can feel secure, to give the confidence for the rest of the repertoire in that section. Also, of course, the ending piece should be really a showstopper or something that you have in your ears when we leave stage. But for my singers, it's been really important to have a secure, confident building piece as the first piece. And then I want the program, even if it's only 15, 18 minutes of music, I want the program to be a good combination of repertoire with different styles and different characters, and showing really what a choir can do and what the choir should be able to do. And we have a lot of practice on that. The engagement within the singers increases immensely during this period, and they take a lot of own initiatives on having section meetings and repertoire meetings, and that's a big pro for me for repertoires. Now you see a lot of pictures here from different types. It looks the same, but it's all different groups, and they develop so much through this. That we have different expectations. You can't really do so much about it, but just talk about it with them all the times, because this could be really bad when you get home, and if you don't have the same experience together as a success. It should be a success that we have raised above our previous level. And then you can have the effect of that for the rest of the year when you practice and do other concerts. They are in that mood of really working hard with the music. Yes. Also, what I sometimes miss in competitions and festivals is that we don't meet enough the other choirs or have opportunities to hear the other choirs. That's what my singers always ask for. Can't we hear them? Can't we see them? Will we meet them? Can we eat together? And most often you have to compromise. What it's called. You have to be very, very short in time. So you don't have time to meet with all the other participants. And that's a pity, because I think that's part of why you go to a festival or choir competition. It's to learn from other groups. And eventually you will hear them at the final concert or something. But during the week, it's so inspiring and it's so useful for my singers. I want them to hear and see what others do. I can absolutely recommend to go to both festivals and competitions. I promote it a lot along my Swedish colleagues here in Sweden, and I often write about it in our community chats and what we have in our choral community chats. So I have a lot of colleagues calling me and asking for repertoire suggestions, and I'm so happy, and I can say, absolutely, I will do it. Oh, you will go with this choir, and I feel as intrigued as when I go with my own choir. I really want to help out with that. Yeah, so I can say to all friends out in the choral world, if you want any help and any suggestion on anything, you are so welcome to call or to write or do anything, to reach out. And I want to help to get more people out in this really, really fun and learning experience. Okay, thank you for me. Yeah, do you think you could get a sound for this last one, Nadine? No, it's not the sound, but anyway, this is really, really, really so good to see. The last day of a competition round after 4 days, and people do things together. And that's what we bring home. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Helene. It was really very interesting presentation. And it's so great to hear your experiences. Do we have any questions to Helene?
Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, I do. I was wondering, you mentioned that the time of the year that it takes to go would have to be ideal. So in your case, Helena, what time of the year is that it's good for you to go to a festival?
Yeah, it depends. For my school singers, we had to adapt to where they have their national tests, for instance. So we need to fit it in between the national tests. And if we are going, for instance, around Easter, we have to be aware of that long before, so we can also be on the same page as parents and families, and so, because everybody plans for travels during Easter holidays. And we can, I mean, with an adult choir, you can go, for instance, on a festival during summer or in August, for instance. But for a youth choir, that changes pretty much a third of the singers. In June, we can't go to a competition in August, not on any travel, I would say. We haven't time to raise a new choir. So the beginning of the autumn is very difficult. And then it comes all the things we do from November, from All Saints weekend up until New Year. We have so much concerts we have to do with Lucia. You know, we have our Lucia traditions, and we do so many Lucia concerts and Advent concerts and Christmas concerts. So that's a period we can't go there.
Thank you
very much.
Thank you.
Leon, you have questions, Helena?
I just wanted to ask, how can we make contact with you, Helena?
Hello, Leon. Sorry, what did you say?
How can we make contact with you? You said we can make contact with you to ask for advice and things.
You can mail me, or you can just send a messenger text or through Facebook or anything. You can have contact through my email. You want my email? It's very
Yes, please.
simple. Yeah.
But
It's
if you're uncomfortable, you don't have to share it.
No. But it's if my private email is my name. It's Helene at
Yes.
Stureborg.net. Net. Helene at Stureborg.net.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, do we have any more questions? Not now? Okay, then thank you very much, Helene. I'm very happy that you also shared some concrete festivals you have been, and I must say I also like Basel very much. And now I got inspiration to go and also try Toulouse because I haven't been there yet. So I'm very happy for the advice. So it's Jonathan Velasco. Can you please share also your experiences about international competitions? Floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. Hello. My name is Jonathan Velasco. I come from the Philippines, a country that participates in a lot of competitions in Europe and in Asia. I am the conductor of the Ateneo Chamber Singers. It's a community choir of about 35 to 40 singers. But when we go to Europe, we look at the number of singers that are allowed for the competitions where we enter, and then we set the number for that. That, as for example, if you enter in Marktoberdorf, the limit is 32, so we're bringing 32 singers. This has a special limitations, of course, with having a community choir such as the Ateneo Chamber Singers. Most of my singers are professionals, so they can only take a leave of a specific length. And when we go on tour, like a European tour, that's the entire year's leave there. So they can only go about 2.5 to 3.5 weeks. That's the most, and then the tour is over. When I was younger and I was a member of the Madrigal Singers, the Philippine Madrigal Singers, we used to tour anywhere between 3 to 6 months. Yes, you heard it, half a year of touring, which is really crazy. But that was when I was young. I started competing or joining competitions as a singer when I was 16. The earliest picture I have was in Arezzo in Italy. I was 16 and I was so thin. Well, never mind that. Through the years, together with the Madrigal Singers and together with my own choir, the Ateneo Chamber Singers, I have gone through some of the best European competitions, and they really are so life-changing. You absorb so much, you form friendships that last decades, really decades. I had friends now who I met, in some competition like 30 years ago or something. So I would always highly suggest joining such competitions. Now, as for festivals, in the case of Philippine choirs, we don't usually join festivals unless these festivals are in between competitions where we go. So, for example, if you're touring like for 3 weeks and you have two competitions or one competition, then you're in Europe already, and then you join a festival that is near to the date of that competition. That's why you really don't see that many Philippine choirs in festivals. They go to competitions not really just for winning or anything, but you go to a place where there are lots of choirs and you learn so many things. So that's the purpose of. I think I agree with what my two colleagues have said about the goals of joining competitions. Now, if you do join competitions, then of course you have to know the rules, and they are set and listed down at the websites of these competitions. Read them carefully, and then read them again, because I'm sure you have missed something. And I tell that with such urgency, because I remember one competition which we won because one choir didn't read the rules enough. And this practice of singing Renaissance pieces and madrigals and such with a lesser number of singers, and with the Ateneo Chamber Singers, I always email the organizers. I said, I'm going to reduce my singers for the Renaissance piece. Are we allowed to do that? And here comes the answer email, and it says, yes, but please read the rules carefully. And there it is stated, the minimum number of singers for this category is 16. And then you have to sing with 16 singers at the least. And one choir forgot that. So we won. Anyway, so know about those rules. Very, very important. Now, for example, I don't want to blurt this out, but actually my choir is entering Mark Oberdorf this year. And I read through Mark Oberdorf's rules, and it says 15 to 20 minutes total programming, including the breaks in between the songs. So it's 15 to 20 minutes from the first note of the first piece until the last note of the last piece, including all breaks in between, like changing formations, pitch giving, etc., etc. So you have to program not a full 20 minutes, but sort of like 17 out of those 20 minutes. And then comes the part where you have to choose what songs to sing. And whenever someone asks me, what do you think is the secret to being successful in a competition? And I tell them there are three things. Number one, programming. Number two, programming. Number three, programming. I can't emphasize that enough. And it gets difficult because programming depends on so many things. In the case of Mark Oberdorf, of course, one of the pieces is the competition. One of the period pieces from a specific period is the competition piece. In this case, in this year, I think it's the Ride della Primavera of Heinrich Schütz. Then your Renaissance program is covered. You can sing another one, of course, if you like, but you have to think about romantic pieces and then modern and contemporary pieces. What do I program usually? For romantic pieces, I choose between, I don't know about you, but Philippine choirs, they love Mendelssohn for some reason. Philippine choirs and Mendelssohn are buddies, So Mendelssohn and Brahms. Now it becomes a choice of time length. Are you choosing which Brahms, one or two pieces? Or if you choose a Brahms that's too long, then it will occupy more than, I don't know what, more than 30 to 40% of your entire program, and that's not good. You have to choose a piece maybe about, I don't know, 4 minutes or something, 4+ minutes, and then you're good. And so I chose, I won't say, I won't say what I chose, but it's Brahms, and yeah. So and then you have to choose. In my case, what are the rest of the program, and then you choose some contemporary works. In my case, I always choose my priority is presenting Filipino music to the world, to the choral world. And I always program Filipino pieces when I can, and new ones at that. Actually, one of the pieces that we're going to sing this year is a commissioned piece by a Filipino composer. So we want to program new pieces, and you have to look very carefully because according to a little birdie, a little birdie told me that some competitions are geared towards new music. You know, they want to hear new music, and some competitions do not care whether you sing old pieces and or new pieces. Old, I mean, you have sung it for like 2 decades or something. And I was a little bit disappointed with the last competition that I joined in. And when I heard these magnificent choirs and they were singing a little bit, you know, not so new music, and I said, "Oh, so that's allowed." Well, yeah, but there's no, you know, there's no. I don't know. I didn't feel it. Didn't feel right to me. And I wanted really to. My program in that competition was like almost 90% either commissioned or premiere or music that has never been heard before. So that is what I always think about. And programming such music takes me half a year at least to think about. It's also what Helena said about about the style, about about the feel and character and all that. That influences a lot on what you choose, and you can only choose a repertoire that your choir can actually sing well. Like for example, there's an instance where this choir sang with they were like 30 people, and their bass twos were like three out of those 30, and then can only reach about F or E below. And then they chose a piece that had a lot of low notes. So I said, the piece is nice, but your choir is definitely not balanced when it came to that specific music. So be careful about ranges, be careful about high notes in the sopranos, etc., etc. So, and you also have to think about the pacing of the program. And I do a lot of imagery and imagination. I imagine the first song, and I think, oh, the audience will react this way to this first song. And then I go into such beautiful romantic pieces that are so flowing, and the audience will say, "Oh, that was so nice." And then I bombard them with rhythmic challenges of Filipino pieces, and then end gloriously another one with those nice songs that are heard for the first time, and then you have a nice program. So it's this spacing of these specific scores that you have, and that takes a while to choose. You know, for contemporary songs, some Filipino choirs also prefer choosing from the Baltic states. Don't ask me why, but they love to sing compositions from the Baltic states. So maybe you can select also from there if you want, if you know some of the persons and the composers from that region. Um, okay, timetable. Well, how long do I prepare for a tour? It's usually a year before, and that's all Philippine choirs. Yeah, what they do, it's a year before. So we plan things in advance, and my choir is already late because the tour, Mark Oberdorf, is June this year, June 6 to 10, and it's already January, end of January. So we're a little bit. It's getting crazy, it's too little time. We couldn't find any hosting for the in betweens of our schedules in Europe, and so you have to be way back in advance, planning ahead, and it takes for us 1 year. Now, in my case, the we do the tour with by polling. I ask the members who can join this tour, and then they answer back, "I can't because of work," or "I can." Yeah. So and then I look at the list and I see, oh, I don't have enough sopranos, or I have too many tenors, and then you have to go balance. Then you have to have auditions and select the members who are going. Is this soprano has a high voice? Okay, floating, not floating, too much vibrato, bass. Okay, this and that. So many issues. So you really have to choose your singers very well. Um, Again, the timetable for this is like 1 year or 10 months in advance. Now, how do we finance? How do the Filipino choirs finance their trips to Europe? I really have no idea. No, I have, but it costs so much. Oh my goodness, millions of pesos, literally millions of pesos. And these are not rich kids. The university choirs, they don't get any money from the university, and they hardly get anything from the government. The government, I think, gives a grant of maybe, let's say, maybe $6,000 at the most, USD, for your trip to Europe. And that's hardly anything. My gosh, the airfare from Manila to wherever, Frankfurt or anything, it's more like 1,500 USD per member. Well, I know for some of you that's already cheap, but yeah, it costs a lot with Manila's standard of living. So what do? We raise money through sponsorships. We deliver letters to big companies. And there was one member of mine who was not really that rich. He did it by sending letters in bulk, not asking for too much, but sending literally 200 to 300 letters. And if he gets like, I don't know, between $20 to $50 per letter, or even for 100 letters, then what? He already has 5,000 USD, and it's unbelievable. He went way past the quota, and he was one of the poorest members. So do things by bulk. Okay, send a lot of letters. We also ask for we do a lot of performances before we leave. Like before we leave for Europe, 1 year before, or even 2 years or 3 years before, we do a lot of concerts through the year. Now, the concerts are paid well because we are the Ateneo Chamber Singers, so we are paid well. But the money doesn't go to the members. The money goes to the kitty. The money goes to the bank and the name of the group. But okay, the members do not get anything, but it is listed under your personal account. So in the group's list, for example, Jonathan Velasco sang in this concert, and he gets a credit of, I don't know, 20 or 30 US dollars, like that. So, and it builds up, and then by the time you leave, and you open the bank accounts and you see, whoa, I already have raised 1,500 USD, and now I just need 500 more. So when the members know this, so they sign up for a lot of these engagements, weddings, concerts, Christmas concerts, etc. They sign up for these so that they can add to their kitty, to their accounts. And you might probably ask me, what if the member doesn't want to go to the tour? That's no problem. You get the money back. Okay? But not all. It's a complicated accounting. Don't ask me about it because it's really complicated. But one of my members did the accounting thing, and it works. So sorry. Okay. Now, choosing the festival and competition. When you choose competitions, the Philippine choirs, they usually choose the summer competitions, but my choir doesn't, because we don't like anymore the temperatures in Europe during the summer. It's really too hot for us. So what we like to choose are the spring and the autumn competitions. That means some of the European Grand Prix qualifiers that are in April, May, June, and some of those in the at the end of the year, like Tolosa in November, etc. Now, what is now very interesting at this time is that there is a proliferation of Asian choral competitions. And they have the same high artistic standards as the European ones, and they even have the same judges as the European competitions. What is lacking now is European choirs coming to Asia to participate in these competitions. There's Bali, there's Bangkok, there's Taipei, there's Tokyo. Can you imagine that? There's even Manila in August this year. It's a those fantastic cities, Kuala Lumpur, and they're international, really high level competitions. And they also have Grand Prix. There's the Asian Choral Grand Prix. So I would suggest for European choirs and choirs from other parts of the world to please come to the Asian competitions and try them out. It's really very, very nice. So that's okay. What is important for me also is when you search these festivals and competitions on the web, that you find out who the artistic director is and who the jury members are. I think you have to look for, the people that you think are you can trust with artistic matters, and also that you see what kind of jury they invited. This is very important, especially the artistic director. There are some competitions from experience which do not have good artistic directors or good managers, and you stay away from those. And if you want to ask me, then we can just talk on email, and I will say to you which ones are which. The jury, well, there are some familiar people that you see all over the world judging, and when you do see someone unfamiliar, you look at the write-ups. Of course, if you don't know yet, the shorter the write-up, the more famous the person. Some of us don't want to read long write-ups, even choral write-ups. So if you submit your choir's write-up or your own personal write-up, don't write too much. The people who just probably read the first 3 paragraphs and just skim the other parts. I myself, my own write-up is like, 3 paragraphs. And I hope for a time in the future, in the near future, when I can reduce it to 1 paragraph. Then that means I'm very famous already. But kidding. Okay, now for my last advice, especially for choirs, here is my last advice: get away from YouTube, please. Okay, because a lot of choirs, I know some, especially from Asia, they depend on YouTube for interpretation. Okay, interpretation. No, that's not the way. You're just feeling it by ear, by listening to it. That's not the way. The way is through research. The way is through listening to the composer's other compositions. If you're going to choose Mendelssohn, it's not just the beauty of a certain Mendelssohn piece, it's the beauty of the other pieces of Mendelssohn, his symphonies, his Midsummer Night's Dream, his songs, his piano work. So listen to all of that, and then listen to the piece that you chose. You can find out how to interpret it better. The same with Brahms. What time did he live? What were the influences, especially this person who influenced him on this melancholic philosophy of life? Oh my goodness, that you can practically hear in all of Brahms' music, symphonies, even the most happy ones are so melancholic. So get away from YouTube, or if you want YouTube, then listen to it in the beginning and then maybe listen to it at the end, etc. But I remember in a certain country, the choir was gathered in front of a laptop, and the conductor was pointing to the choir. Listen to that, he said. Okay, that's how we're going to sing it. I was like, what? That's how we're going to sing it. See, that's the phrasing. Okay, that's the. I said, no, that doesn't work that way. So a lot of artistic research goes into each and every piece that you choose for festivals and competitions, because after spending so many millions of pesos or so many thousands of dollars, sometimes you only get 15 to 20 minutes to showcase the best of your choir and the best of your country. So make the most out of it by choosing repertoire well. That's it. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. Does anybody has questions to Jojo?
Yay, no questions.
Leon, please.
Oh,
I'm feeling a
hi,
bit.
Leo.
Hi, Jonathan. I'm talking too much, but I do have actually two questions, and the one is for all three of you, because all three of you are also renowned adjudicators, and you spoke about the repertoire and about reading the rules well. You have to submit your pieces before a competition, way before, and then the artistic committee looks at it and they tell you, well, they basically tell you it's fine. So can it happen that you arrive at the competition and you've gone through that whole process, and then you get there and they're saying, oh, you can't sing this piece, or they don't even tell you, they just disqualify you because you sang a piece which they then think is not the right piece, if the artistic committee have approved the piece? Or is it the case that once you've submitted, they've approved it, you're fine with your repertoire, as long as it's not too long or too short?
If it is approved by the artistic committee or the artistic director, then you're safe, or you should be. They have no right to do anything about it. What is doubtful, though, and I say this with much love, is if you choose pieces which have doubtful editions, like, for example, certain CPDL scores or IMSLP old editions, and you have to be very, very careful with the edition, because sometimes there are errors. So the artistic director might approve them, but then you'll have a minus point with the judges because, well, there's an error, you know. So be careful with editions, I would say.
Yeah, Leon,
add that. Sorry, Betsy, you go.
well, I was just going to say I've never had an experience where after I turned in the program, and then we arrived, somebody said that it wasn't okay. And usually you can change your program up to a certain point. I did have the experience at one competition where, one of the great moments is when the conductors can meet with the juries, with the jurists, and they give you, comments, which I love. And the chair of the jury said this particular piece was too easy for the competition. And I pushed back and said, we are the only choir that entered in 2 categories, all of which we memorized. And, he said, well, that's a good point. And then we won that competition. So I was really glad to have an opportunity to explain why, one particular piece perhaps was not as difficult as they had wished. So.
And I must say that, Betsy, it's sometimes more revealing singing an easy piece than doing a very intriguing piece with a lot of I don't know what intonation, whatever, I don't know, but singing an easy piece, doing it very, very exquisite and delicate, that's much more revealing.
Agreed.
And that should always be, I think, the mandatory piece should be kind of an easy piece, just to hear what is the real sound of the choir and how do they handle this easy, like a choral or whatever. It's
Yep.
it's not something you could take for granted. But I would say I have never been in the situation where I have chosen the wrong repertoire or something wrong with the repertoire, and I've known it just when we come to the competition. But I've heard of other choirs in other competition. It has happened. So it depends on the artistic committee and how they if they really go through the repertoire and if they're really going through the rules themselves. So you should be aware of, that get a knowledge from the artistic committee. This is okay with you, and they should reply, yes, it's fine.
I had a colleague and friend who entered a competition, and in the folk song category, they were disqualified because a piece they sang, it sounded like an American folk song, but it was by Stephen Foster, so it was composed. It was not a folk song. So, that kind of research would be beneficial. I felt at the time that it was a little unfair because the artistic committee had approved that piece, but then a judge, noticed that it really wasn't a folk song. So anyway, I suppose that could happen.
And that's also a thing. I mean, I've never been in an artistic committee, but if you're in an artistic committee, you need to know the music from the whole world, and that's not possible. Then you need who to ask if it's a genuine song or if it's a genuine edition or whatever. So, of course, mistakes could happen. Rarely.
I have been asked several times about such songs. And they go, "Dear Jojo, is this really a Filipino folk song?" And I say yes, or I say no. So. Oh yes, and my email is already there. It's one of the. I was early in Gmail, so I have choirmaster@gmail.com. Yeah. So what's your second question, Leon?
Jonathan, I don't think it's because you were early. I think that is actually your final CV. Your final. What is your CV? choirmaster@gmail.com. Yeah, my second question is not really a question, and I'm not sure it's the appropriate venue forum to say this. It's just I met Helena at Tolosa. Me and Lauren, who's in the chat, and a few of my choir members were on the bus with them when they went to the prize-winning concert, and they were warming up and singing, and it was the most heavenly experience. And Betsy just now said that one of the most wonderful experiences of these competitions is when you get to meet the adjudicators and you get your feedback. And we were bitterly disappointed at Tolosa because we had zero feedback. I mean, we had the most wonderful time. The competition was wonderful. We loved the singing. We had the most incredible concerts, but not a word of feedback, not a single. And the effect it had on the choir members post-tour, because I mean, if you come first or second, like Elena and them did, that is your feedback. But if you don't place in the top three in Tolosa like we did, and you don't get any feedback, you do feel a bit frustrated. So if Kaya, if you have influence with Tolosa, please ask them to give feedback to the choirs that participate.
Tolosa has
that's all I wanted to say.
Tolosa has certain, how would you say it, idiosyncrasies that are only, but it's okay.
It is Southern style of organizing.
Yeah.
Yes.
But one thing that's really, really good with the Tolosa, which differs them from all other competitions, that's it's mandatory to sing a few of the Basque songs.
Yes,
You have to go through the Basque repertoire and really find what's in the repertoire for Tolosa or Basque country. And that you could have in other countries as well, I think, to bring in something really genuine for that country, to be able also to promote that country's music.
Agree.
Do we have any more questions?
Amy?
I see your hand.
Hi, everyone. First of all, I just want to say thanks so much for hosting such a valuable event. It's been really, really interesting and really valuable. And also I'd like to thank all three of you for sharing your wisdom and insights. It's been really fascinating. I actually had the pleasure of hearing both Betsy and Helene's superb choirs in Baden earlier this year, and you could really see the proof of their ideas and processes. So thank you. I just have two questions, if you don't mind. So my first question is, sometimes in festivals, there is a compulsory piece, and that's not announced until after you submitted your program, which is something I'm actually dealing with at the moment. And I was wondering if any of you had any thoughts on how to approach programming when you don't actually have the score of the compulsory piece yet.
In which case, for example, Tolosa Mark Oberdorf uses the Karus edition, and Karus said we don't have it yet. We're going to give it to you like 1 to 3 weeks after like a few days ago, 1 to 3 weeks after, and then what we did, because it's a piece by Heinrich Schütz, is we got first, an edition somewhere, and we learned through that, and if there are any changes, then we can incorporate them when the actual edition from Karus arrives.
Thank you.
In
But
terms
also doing the programming, you want to know that it's a piece that fits in the program that you're doing. So that's difficult, because I think of the program for the competition is like a concert program in miniature. So you want this line to be kept together, and to be on the safe side. If I don't know the piece in advance, and if I don't know the epoch even, I put it as a second piece. So I have this traditional opening and comforting starting piece, and then I put the mandatory piece that I don't know, if I don't know it.
Yeah, that's
I
really
kind
good.
of hide it there.
Yes, because you want your opener. I mean, Helena talked about this earlier. That's the first impression everybody gets of your choir. So you want to feel really confident that that fits your choir well. Mm-hmm. And I believe in the power of the closer too. So yes, hiding the compulsory pieces is my my method also.
Great. That's very practical, very helpful. Thank you. And then my second question was just about community choirs. So that's the type of choirs I'm working with. I was wondering how you deal with attendance requirements for people who have day jobs, in the preparation period for traveling, and how you deal with someone who has perhaps paid their flights and accommodation and is falling foul of an attendance policy. I was wondering if you've ever dealt with that, or how you deal with that while still maintaining the positive kind of community aspect to the choir.
Well, I took the Houston Symphony Chorus on tour several times, and those folks had to pay their own way. And I had we had performances for very prestigious festivals, including the Bach Festival in Leipzig. And so they had to be prepared. And so I told singers from the outset, everyone who is paid will go, but unless you stay on top of learning this repertoire and attending rehearsals, you will go but not perform with us.
Okay. Yeah.
And I did have one woman, and she did not attend enough rehearsals. She was not ready, and so she did come, but she did not sing with us.
Okay. Yeah. That's very helpful to know that is something that has been done, that I can point to should that arise.
Yeah. It can be a problem.
Yeah.
My limit is 3 missed rehearsals between now and June, and also to let you know that my choir normally rehearses once a week, and then we increased that to twice a week this week, and then we're going to 3 times a week in March. So you should not miss too many rehearsals. You're supposed to just miss 3 times. But if you do have a lot of missed rehearsals, then I agree with what Betsy did, or let them come, but for the competition part, that they don't sing.
I'm a softie. I'm a real softie. We can't work like that. I mean, it's not possible. We can't work like that in Sweden. It could be absolutely impossible. It would be a rage out. So I've never turned anyone down. If we have agreed on going on a competition, rather we have to get that person in, and we always rehearse once a week only. And we know how it is. If you miss one, it's only one time. Yeah, but it's 2 weeks between the rehearsals you have attended, and that's a lot of time. But on the other hand, they have these section meetings also, where they can be online if it's a real crisis, but they try to find a spot where they all can attend. And I'm also very, very generous with my time. So if they say, okay, we can't come the whole section this rehearsal. Could we find another time when you could be with us to have a section rehearsal with you? And I say, absolutely, you can use my time. I have been really, really generous there. But I've never turned anyone down from a competition, even if there is a crisis. And I mean, with the music school choirs, I haven't even been able to turn students down that haven't attended school for several days or weeks because of due to mental illness or something. They have to come and they have to be in the choir and perform. That's it. So I have to deal with that. And as long as they don't disturb anything, and we know, everybody knows this is a person who doesn't know his or her part. Everybody knows that. It's not a surprise when they sing. And I have just to tell them that, please, you are with us, but try not to disturb your fellow singers.
That's really helpful. Thank you. That sounds much more like my own context as well, so I can relate to that. But it's really useful to hear all three of your experiences, so thank you.
I think, Amy, in my case, from the very beginning, before people paid a penny down, I said, you must make the attendance schedule. I mean, a certain number of absences were accepted, of course, but if you don't, you are welcome to go on the trip, but you may not sing. And so it was not a surprise. I mean, that was set out from the beginning. So
I think that clarity is really useful. Thank you.
Are there any more questions?
No, just another comment for Jojo and the festivals that are now flourishing up in Asia. I would love to go with my choirs, but we can't afford it. It's just, okay, then it's in every 5 years, so we can go to a longer trip maybe, but I have never been to the States with my choirs. I've never been to South America or Africa or even Asia. We can't afford that.
Yes.
I would suggest for you to come during for a slight discount during the off-peak seasons of October, November in Asia, or within Asia itself. If you arrive in Asia, every major city is connected by budget airlines. They're just all over the place, and they're all very good airlines. So I hope someday you could come.
Thank you very much for this comment. If there are more questions, I would like to thank all of you. It was so great to see so many international colleagues. And you are very welcome to our next online cafes of IFCM.